What's up, guys? Kevin Wagstaff here. Thanks for listening and watching this interview with Reuben and George from Structure Tech. I had a blast doing it. It's kind of on the long side, so hang in there. I promise you it's entertaining. Both really great guys, and we had a blast chatting. If you're in IEB, you know all about Reuben and Structure Tech, but it's fun to hear him in this long form conversation, as well as hearing from his lead, George, who they have a great dynamic and just the working relationships and all these dynamics of buy-in, things you talk about in IEB. And even if you're not in IEB, a lot you can learn from someone like Reuben and George. So hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments, and then shoot me an email if you have ideas for other guests or if you yourself want to be on. Thanks. Awesome. So yeah, if it's cool with you guys, we can just roll and just see where this goes. I know we had a couple topics we wanted to chat about. I was pumped just to get guys like you on here because I know we don't really need an agenda. We can just go and talk about stuff, and people apparently would care and listen. So that's fun.
Sweet.
Sure, but you do some editing,
yeah,
or not? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I just if I the swears come out every so often. So
I prefer that. It makes it more human, and it makes people trust you. Studies show. So
well, and Kevin, I have been listening to the Spectora podcast, and I think I did go back to the beginning to listen to all or most of them.
Nice.
And only in the last few have I heard bullshit, which is great to hear. And just, the occasional hell or damn. It's like, but when you progress to bullshit, it's like, oh, good. This is listenable. We're
human. Yeah. We're not too stiff.
Exactly.
Kids all good?
Okay.
Kids are good now. They have been warned. We're going live, kids. Keep it down.
It wouldn't be a COVID podcast if some kids or dogs didn't pop in or some ruckus happening in the background. So
my dog will pop in. It doesn't matter what I tell him before we start.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get rolling then. For those, if you're a home inspector living under a rock, we'll have you guys introduce Structure Tech, who you are. I think most people are aware of your famous content, but yeah, let's introduce you to everybody, even though you've been on before, Reuben.
I'm Reuben Saltzman. The company is Structure Tech Home Inspections. I've been with this company since '97. That's my dad brought me on, and I started then. That's when he purchased Structure Tech. And back when my son was born, I decided I wanted more time freedom, and I needed to change this business. And we started working on growing things. And today we've grown to be a much larger company. I don't do home inspections anymore. All I do is this kind of thing that we're doing now.
Yeah, content creation.
That's right. Work on trying to grow the business. And yeah, that's about it. That's where we're at.
Awesome. And George, we'll introduce you to the world.
Yeah, I'm one of the inspectors at Structure Tech, and I've been there. As you were introing, I can never remember whether it was 2010 or 11, but I think I've been with Structure Tech almost 10 years. Reuben trained me, so any mistake that I make is directly related.
Direct attribution, yeah, love
exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's a reason for every mistake that I make. But I will say this, and Reuben brings up his dad, and it's real easy to kind of be a commercial for Structure Tech, and it's not just Structure Tech, and it's like, yes, we know Reuben. But just the Saltzman family, they are just good people, good humans. So it's not just Structure Tech and the inspection company and what Reuben is sort of leading. It's the fact that there's something behind Reuben and Reuben's dad, and they bring that forward. I feel like I like to say that. I like to give a little commercial on. It's like, it's not just Structure Tech. It's like they're human beings that are doing a really good job of building this.
Christmas bonus is coming right up, George.
Yeah.
Thank you. Add another zero.
And I'm going to continue. I'm going to start the love fest right away too. And I'll second that by Reuben's one of those people where it's the second you meet him, you feel the warmth and you're like, this guy's cool and he's warm and he's sharp and he's someone I want to be around. In our industry, when you feel those people, you're just like, man, I got to be around this guy more. And so he's one of those people. And so we can talk about how that translates to culture and growth and all that, at the risk of going through kind of your guys' like growth story. I think it's interesting though, because I think at the size you're at with how many employees?
It's 30 something. I'm not sure. I think it's around 35 now.
Yes. And I love when you can't even keep track anymore. It's an amazing problem to have. It's the best problem to have. So yeah, people want to hear this stuff. And so I think even if you can just give us the couple minute kind of growth pattern and where you've been, you don't have to go all the way back, but you can if you want. But yeah, just curious of like the path here because I think people hear structure tech and they see a picture with 30 people on the site and they're just like, oh my God, it's so unattainable. He just came out the womb at a 30 inspector company. So just hearing a little bit about the growth path and George can chime in as well as in terms of how he played a role in that.
Sure, sure. Well, like I kind of said, it was about my son coming along. It was 2007, and I was really after more time freedom. I wanted, and we couldn't even handle the business we had. It was me, my dad, and one other guy. It was just the three of us. I'd answer the phones. I'd schedule all the inspections. I would, in between my two inspections of the day, I would just get on the phone. I'd listen to messages. I'd call people back. We'd go out to dinner at friends' houses, and I would be returning calls the entire drive there. We'd get to their house. I'm not done with my calls. My wife would have to go inside. I'd be sitting in the car. I remember this so many times.
You were that guy. Yeah, you were that guy.
Like, I got to get these calls back because I can't wait till tomorrow. And so time freedom was a big reason for change. And we brought on Malind. He was the first inspector that we brought on besides us. That was 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And then George followed close behind that. And, we were always, we were bigger than one-man shops, but, we were just kind of a blip. I mean, there was another company in town they were the big dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I always looked up to those guys. Like, we will never be as big as them. They were the first home inspection company in Minnesota. They're the biggest, they're the best. But at some point I just kind of started chasing them, and it was like,
yeah,
hey, we might get to their size someday. And I just kind of put that as a goal. Like, I want to get as big as these guys someday. And once we grew past that, it was kind of weird. And it was like, wait, what do we do now? It just seems strange. But they're all good guys. I mean, the owner of that company and I get together for lunch on a regular basis, and we share what we're doing. I mean, it's friendly competition.
Yeah. What were some of those keys when you were at that phase? Because I think everyone can relate right now, especially in a lot of markets. Crazy busy, COVID kind of, slingshotted a lot of people ahead. What were you guys doing at that time for your phone to just be ringing off the hook? I kind of, I have a hunch of what the answers are, but like, what do you feel were some of those keys when you were just three of you? I think you said you hired your fourth, maybe, of just that nonstop people calling you for inspections.
Really what it comes down to was hustling and having a motor. I would call real estate offices and I would do presentations at their offices. I'd say, hey, there's a change to the local ordinance when you're selling a house in Minneapolis. There's this new rule you got to do, and I can teach you all about it. And I'd put together PowerPoints, and I would go to office after office, and I'd make it my goal. Every Tuesday morning, I'm doing a new presentation at a different office, and I'm dropping off brochures. And it was it was a matter of hustling. There's so many programs out there that cater to home inspectors, and it's teaching home inspectors. Sorry, Kevin, I don't know the difference between marketing and advertising. Whatever it is, it's teaching home inspectors to do one of those two things.
Right.
And the way I see it, you don't need to just follow one method. If you're out there hustling, there's a gazillion ways to get business. And I was out there hustling. That's really what it comes down to. But what really started changing it, and I started getting a much bigger ROI for my time, was when I started blogging. That was the big one. And that happened right around 2008. I think my son was probably about one or so. I started blogging, and the website traffic just started skyrocketing, and our demand started skyrocketing. And that's where it started to get silly, the amount of inspections that we would turn away.
Yeah.
And that's where we decided we need more people.
I want to pause for a second there. So for one, for those that don't know, best content producer in our industry, hands down, hundreds of thousands of visits to the website every month, have pieces that have done millions in traffic. So guys, I always pound the table on people blogging, but like Reuben is proof, if you didn't listen to the last episode, that this can transform your business. But I want to go back to the motor thing because you're right. The classes that Mike and I teach in at Internachi, the online stuff I see, it's all so like, I don't want to say basic, but it's technical. It's, there's a technical side, so that's great. But then everyone's just like, well, what do I do? Do I just get on Facebook or do I, we're not even talking about the hustle and the motor. And I always use the word motor too, because in sports you hear about like a high motor guy or whatever. I don't think we talk about that enough because I did like a new inspector training the other day and I didn't feel the motor from everyone that like, how bad do you want this? Do you really want this? And like, where did that come from you?
Boy, that's a good question. I don't know, man. I think no, wait. Now that you say it, I do know. It came from my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was a carpenter growing up, and I was homeschooled. And from the time I was about 6, he would start taking me on job sites. Like, you need a grunt. I just tore down this wall. I need someone to pick all this up and put it in the dumpster outside. Get to it, boy. No, not like that. But I was doing the stuff that nobody ever wanted to do. And I'd see him. I mean, he would not take a break until lunchtime. It would just be go, go, go. And that really got instilled in me. So I can thank my dad for that, I guess. He gave me a good motor, good work ethic.
I love it. I love it. And George, I want to shift to you here because coming into the business at that time when the hyper growth is starting to happen, what were your impressions coming into the company? Because I love this dynamic right here because a lot of our listeners have lead inspectors, people they basically consider partners that have been with them, from the beginning. How did you kind of fold into that? Did you feel it right away? Like, what's culture like from your perspective?
I felt the culture pretty early on especially with Reuben, especially with him training me. One, realizing that, okay, I have to keep up because, I mean, you can't tell by the picture, but there's a bit of an age difference between Reuben and myself. And I was coming from a different industry, and it was this was a complete change for me. Mm-hmm. For everything. It literally from going from being sitting behind a desk at a monitor. I was a software trainer and a technical writer, and I was coming into this. So I had always had interest in it, and I did it for about a year on my own, and then I joined Structure Tech, which was me thinking, I think I wasted a year, but I sort of eased into the culture, but I could just, like you said, when you meet Reuben, that there is a motor there. I was just talking to some of the new guys the other day. I think we were talking about tool belts. And I said, Reuben, when I was training with him, he had, I always called the gunslinger because he had this belt that was just really low. And I said, you could always tell how far away he was and how quickly he was approaching by the sound of his tool belt. Like, okay. And so there was that to kind of keep up with actually, going through. He's very process oriented, and I think he brings his sort of flow and what he's doing with an inspection and how detailed and thorough it is. I think he's bringing that to growing the company, being just as thorough and just as diligent. But the at the beginning, the culture was truly unrecognizable. Excuse me. I didn't really even know. You couldn't really recognize the growth. It was just 5 of us. And then, in fact, I met Malind, and Malind said, we met because we were doing some other licensing for some Minneapolis inspections. But he said, Reuben's kind of growing the company, and, you might be a good fit. And then that's where it started. But then, a year later, 2 years, it's like, oh, yes, Reuben is really growing this company. From when I did first start, I didn't know who Reuben was, but he's, like you said, he's always that guy with the motor, but he's also always the guy in the front row. Every time I'd go to at the beginning, when I'd go to we have some organizations here. Mishi is one of them, and they have we would do this test house, and he was in the front row. And Reuben is always going to look young, as does his dad. And he's in the front row, and some of the guys were asking questions, saying, well, whatever the detail was, no, I think that's okay. That's not a defect. You saw this kid in the front sort of wheel around, and he was very polite. He goes, no, actually, da, 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 and just, but everybody knew who Reuben was. And I looked at this guy, I said, who is this guy in the front row? He looks 12. Does he drive yet? I don't even know. But, you could recognize that this kid had a motor. And, when I saw an opportunity to join, I thought, yes, this is of all the organizations, Reuben is going to make it easy for people to begin a career as a home inspector.
I love it. And if nothing else, I want people to examine their motor, like the level, what is the cadence and the pace you operate at day to day? Can it be better? What are the things you're doing with your health? But I'm also hearing, Reuben, that you had a vision and kind of building this culture. You're almost like IEB before IEB. I know IEB, teaches and pushes a lot of this stuff, but you sound like you were almost doing it kind of instinctively. Like, was there any fake it till you make it involved? Because I think confidence is a hard thing to preach and teach to people. You clearly have it. You present yourself well. I just want to know what others can take away to just kind of get out of their comfort zone and bust through that and say, like, be that kid in the front row or that person. It doesn't matter if you're 60 or 20.
I think that's the biggest thing is just start working at it. I mean, so many people are worried that what they're doing isn't going to be perfect, and so they don't even try. That was a really good book I read, was How to Be an Imperfectionist. And it taught me that being a perfectionist is a curse. That is not a good thing at all. I used to think of it as a good thing, like you're doing really good work, but I've changed that mindset to realize it's debilitating. It stops people from doing things at all because they're afraid that they're not going to do it perfectly. And once you can throw out that mindset and you can just say, look, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to write this. I'm going to make this video. It's not going to be perfect. And who cares? When you first start out, nobody's watching or reading or paying attention anyway. Just start getting it done. And you can improve your process as you go along. And as you get the reps in, you will start getting better at it. So I guess hopefully I'm answering your question, Kevin, and it's just get out there and do it.
Completely.
Don't let the idea that you're not doing it perfectly stop you.
I just hear it so often, and that's why we talk about it so much on the pod, is that nobody cares. Nobody's paying attention. So lose the ego. I think a lot of it is ego, and a lot of it is worrying about what other people think. And I think our industry is so, that's why there's no content creators in our industry, because we all worry about what other people think. I love that you said, I'm detail oriented. I'm thorough. I'm just a perfectionist. Like everyone says that as a badge of pride. No, it's holding you back. It's putting a lid on you.
Yes. I mean, it's an important characteristic for a home inspector to have. I mean, you better be detailed and thorough if you're a home inspector, but you got to know when to be able to shut that off.
Yes. Love it. We can come back to some of this stuff. Let's change gears a bit. You guys recently have moved over to Spectora. Pumped, excited, love having you guys. From day one, Dave interacting with George and just was raving about him. And I was like, if he's with Reuben, guarantee he's going to be just as wonderful and just as fun to work with. So I was pumped from day one, knowing that just the level of professionalism, the level of detail, the things you guys care about, it's just different. Like, like everyone thinks they're unique in this industry, but like you just march to your own beat, I guess, is a terrible metaphor or way of saying it. But talk to me a little about the process because sometimes people listen to this that haven't moved over yet, but like, God, transitioning this many people, not easy.
Oh my goodness.
So step me through even the thought process from the beginning of saying, well, George, moving the Titanic.
George, tell them why you wanted to change, and then I'll jump in with what my thoughts were on it.
Oh, what if I have the wrong answer to this one? What I, you know, well, two things that when I was thinking about this, it's like, when did we start thinking about this? I remember at Inspection World in January, we were talking to, Charles Buell, and he had some software coming out, and I was, we were just kind of thinking, and I talked to you about it before, but sometimes there's no real good time to change a platform like this. And we just ended up, I just said, hey, what do you think about changing software? And you looked at me, you said, fine, go ahead and do it. So I took advantage of you possibly being a smart ass, thinking, okay, we need to start thinking about doing this.
Wait, can we pause there for a second? Because
Yeah.
this is for anyone that leads a multi-inspector company, whether you're being a smart ass or not, I do see a commonality, and it's probably a good IEB influence there of just trust and having a team, whether you're being a smart ass or not. I've seen this with like Rob Lemoyne and others where they're just like, hey, George, you're my guy. Figure it out. Figure out how it can help us, make us more profitable, save us time. I trust you. Of course, I got to sign off on it. But like that level of trust, what did that do for you, George? Like, to me, that has to increase loyalty, investment, and just being like, damn, I am a part of this.
I will, I will say that Reuben is he's generally a trusting person. So I took it as him being, a bit of a smart aleck, but also just a way into making it a change for the company. But we keep hearing about you keep hearing about different software, and the software that we were using, they weren't necessarily advancing, and the cool factor wasn't there, and these weren't really sexy reports, and they were just bleh. We needed something that was more current and up to date and more than likely cloud based. Mm-hmm. So, we decided that we needed to take the charge and do this. So, Reuben, what was the answer I was supposed to give?
Well, no, that was it. I mean,
how'd we get on your radar, George?
The thing was, you wanted to change software for all of these reasons. And mm-hmm. I mean, I just thought to myself, this is a ridiculous amount of work. I mean, it's crazy what it takes to transition from one piece of home inspection software to the other. Because there's no like button you click that takes all of your comments and recreates it. I mean, this software, our library, has been a labor of love for the last, I don't know, 6 to 8 years, whatever it's been. I mean, it's crazy.
And in your mind, Reuben, were you like, hey, things are great, we're growing? Like why would we change something that's working?
Well, yeah. I mean, I knew I had completely fallen out of love with the software we were using. When we first got it, I loved it and it was great and it's been rock solid, but there have been no changes to it since we first started with it. Mm-hmm. We started using that software in like 2012 or something. Right. And it has just sat stagnant. So I've fallen less and less in love with it, but it's good enough. And I feel like I'm not going to get more people asking for home inspections based on our final report. So why go through this? And when George said, hey, let's try out some different software. I mean, I don't remember saying it, but it sounds like something I'd say. I could totally see myself going, yeah, sure, go for it.
You were right. You were drunk with power. That was it. And you give these edicts. But then, it was that. And then we started thinking about it. But, to change software, like Reuben was saying, it is a monumental task. Because we've got thousands of comments. They need to come over, and the software companies that are out there, there's no great way of importing. And the software that we were using, I am sure that they get hundreds of calls a day saying, can I import everything into an Excel spreadsheet? And the answer is always the same. No, you can't. So it's like, okay, we need to be able to do something, and that has to be importable. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of January, February, sort of thinking about it. And then I think Tessa and Eric went to IEB, where I think were further exposed to Spectora. Saw a lot of the folks at IEB using it. And that coupled or tripled with COVID Well, this is about as as good as it's going to get, as far as an opportunity to migrate and to completely change the platform that we have. So I knew that I was going to be taking some time off. So I'm thinking, I think this is the time. This is the opportunity that's not going to come along, hopefully, ever again.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, to actually spend the time that we need, um, to fully, to fully change the platform. There's no real sort of way to ease into new software. It's like, here's the old software, here's the new software. There you go, kids. Good luck. So once March hit, April. I think April and May. I spent or no, actually, I think I was still inspecting in April. It was really May, June was when we made the transition, which also gave us an opportunity to completely look at each comment that we have, make sure it's right, make sure it's good, make sure it's, I had Grammarly running in the background just to make sure that, that things were going to be worded well. So that, changing all the links, making sure, because we have hundreds of links in each one of our comments in the report. A lot of the comments have links directly to the blogs that Reuben has. So to go in and change every one of those and to test each one. So a lot of work, but two things. One, when when I imported all the information from our former software, I like how we're being very politically correct, saying our former
Yeah.
software.
I mean, you guys can say whatever you want with it's all.
Yeah, well, I'm trying. Look, but I don't want to bash anyone because it's not bad. It's not bad. We just needed something. We just needed something else.
Mhm.
So um, when when we were able to import everything into Spectora, and it's like, well, that went a lot better than I thought it was going to. I'd been involved in a couple, sort of behind the scenes in some migration work with some other companies that I've worked with, and it's always a freaking nightmare. It is always, it's always like, okay, all hands on deck. We need this information didn't, and then all of these bleary-eyed people are trying to get this last little chunk of information. It's like 90% of it worked really well, but it's this last 10%, and it Spectora made it a lot easier for that to happen, to just bring everything over. It's not perfect. There's still a lot of work to do, but it's a great start. And like you guys were just saying, if you're being a perfectionist and you don't want to leave one platform because you don't think everything will be perfect in Spectora, it won't just like right away, but everything takes a little tweaking, and you have to proofread stuff. But I was very pleased with how well that went, that first pass. And then after that, it was just me editing and bringing in the pic. And we changed, and that was our decision. We changed a bunch of the graphics, but we kind of got this thing where we wanted it. I'm all about clicks. I will remove a click in front of someone every chance I have. So it was and Spectora made it easy to, once the template was in, Spectora made it easy for me to move things around and to edit. And it's like, I think I want to separate this, because admittedly it's going to create some scrolling that maybe you hadn't counted on.
Mm-hmm.
But Spectora made it easy to, like, you know what, these don't need to be in one section. Why don't I just divide these two? It's like less scrolling, and it's a little more drilling down, and it's just way easier to do in the field. So Spectora definitely made it easy to bring everything over, then proofreading it, getting it out. And when we send it out, I don't know, tell me if I'm just answering too many questions that haven't even been asked, but when we were working on it, I was working with Eric and Tessa, and kind of working on how we wanted to test it in the field. And I knew that Eric, or I should say, when you meet Eric, you'll describe him as tenacious, and he's very detail oriented. He's a very, very good inspector, and he's the person that will, if you ask him to do something, is, yep, I'm on it. That's Eric, and he's like that with Spectora. So it's like, okay, buddy, you're going to be the one out there testing this stuff, and he tested the crap out of this thing.
So is he a lead inspector, or is he just kind of that young, nimble, tenacious member of the team that you thought, hey, he'd be good in helping kind of figure this stuff out?
Both.
I think he's a little both.
Yeah. He's definitely that, but he is also our production manager. He oversees all of the team leads at our team. He is inspector number one at this point, even though he's been with us the shortest amount of time. He's tenacious. He's the right guy for the job.
But he had experience. He had a lot. He had managerial experience before he even joined us. So he was he hit the ground. He hit the ground running a little faster than I think other people would be. So to have Eric out there testing this stuff was, I mean, it was just fantastic, because at that point I wasn't even inspecting. So, the most I could do is just like, let's test this. Let's see what this does. But Spectora makes changes easy. And, it's still evolving. We're still, another one of our inspectors, very detail oriented, Joe, he has the most feedback regarding the comments. And when he gives me a change, I can make that change really fast. And then it's up for everybody the next day. So I totally dig that about Spectora.
Love it. And so while this is happening, Reuben, how involved were you while the testing's happening? How purposeful were the people that were testing and piloting? Because I think those decisions matter a ton. I think some inspectors they just think of it as black and white, like, oh, we're changing software or we're not. It's like the implementation can make a huge difference. Sounds like you have the right people on it.
Oh, that's what it all came down to. I mean, I basically had nothing to do with it other than organizing who was going to do it. That's really all I did. If I had to write a report with Spectora today, I don't think I could. I don't really know how it works. I just know what my team has told me. And it was a matter of figuring out kind of a committee, like who wants to raise their hand, who wants to be a part of this, figuring out whether it was even feasible to transition to Spectora. We had that team do a bunch of meetings, and then figuring out who's going to be a part of the software committee, who's going to write it. All right, George will. Who's going to test it? Eric is going to be the lead. After Eric, who are we going to roll it out to next? Well, let's have my dad on it. My dad's one of the oldest people on the team. And, the thinking is, all right, if my dad can pick this up and figure it out, none of y'all have an excuse.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to jump in there. Your dad was fantastic. He was sort of hectoring the younger guys, saying, look, you guys, you got to get into it. You got to use it. Just get out there. And
wow.
His dad was like, just kind of needling the younger guys for like, oh yeah, yes. I'm still using the old stuff for a while.
Oh, your dad's a legend for that. That's legendary.
Yes. So, I mean, he was poking all the younger guys, like, quit making complaints. So,
you have no excuse to not use this.
Yep. And I will admit, towards the end there, it got to a point where I kept checking in with the team week after week. I'm like, where are we at? And once it was about 3 weeks in a row of the same people are using it, the same people haven't started using it, we had made no progress on the transition. I said, all right, guys, we need a deadline. Because we're going to have people just sitting there not willing to do it until you light a fire under their butt. And so what are we going to do for a deadline? And everybody came up with a deadline. And then when I rolled it out, it was kind of like everything hit the fan and people were not happy because all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, I thought we had a lot of time to do this. And it went a little crazy. I made some mistakes there. I shouldn't have made it quite so heavy-handed with the transition date, but
so part of the team had a hard stop. And how much notice was it? Like a month, 2 months?
I don't know, George, I'm sure you know the day and time.
Yes, we had a couple of very specific discussions on this. I think the guys had a couple of weeks.
But
And by
everyone
the way,
procrastinated
guys,
doing their homework probably.
yeah, and well, yes, yes. But I sort of knew it's like we're gonna need a little more time for this. And I think the date took me by surprise and some of the other folks by surprise. But you know what? We have since recovered. I think that's the important part,
We
Ruben.
That's the
can laugh
important part.
about it now.
We can laugh about it now. It's awfully adorable that it happened, and we can move on.
Yes.
But
So what does that look like coming out of the other side of the tunnel? Like what were that's why you made us do this, or oh, I get it now. What were some of those aha moments from the ones that kind of were kicking and screaming?
you know, I'll take this one just for a second. It wasn't. It's like anything, and it's the it. I think it kind of dovetails to the perfectionist conversation we had. It's like I'm going to go in and I'm not going to use this perfectly. I'm not going to be able to use this as it should be on the first day. I think that prevents people from just starting to use it.
Right.
So they weren't starting to use it. That means they weren't going to be using it. So you have to give them the hard deadline of just starting. Otherwise they won't. But it's not that they didn't. It's not that they're not great at it now. They just you have to give them the little push to get that going. But I think everybody's pretty happy with it now. Very happy with it.
Yeah, because I was just curious. I'm always curious what the pitch or the incentive is like, because I always prepare, especially big multis. I always tell them like, this is typically what we hear back from inspectors after the fact. So you can say this with confidence to your team that like, hey, if you spend a few hours at home on that evening and you don't want to do that anymore, that's pain that we could take away by going through the short-term pain of learning something new.
Oh yeah, and I think they recognize that. I think they recognize that very quickly. Like and my pitch was, even if you get halfway done with the report, that is more than you ever got done with the old software, because we weren't able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that at all. And actually, it was kind of interesting to hear how some folks, and it was good for me to hear because I experienced the same issue. I thought I was the only one. Hold on one second. I thought I was the only one person, but I think someone like I think it was Matt. He said, you get to a point where you're using your phone or the device or whatever, and you're taking pictures and everything's going fine, but then you realize that it's taking just a little bit longer because of your learning curve, and then you just go to your regular camera, and then you just take photos of everything else. Like, oh my God, I'm so glad someone else said that, because that's what I was feeling. But I was feeling it because I'm using, and I've just been using my phone, and I'm scrolling down, but then I'm looking, it's like, oh, that one could be worded a little bit differently. So I'm getting distracted by the stuff that's already there. So by the time I need to I got people coming here. So then it's like, oh, to the camera. It's like, and every time I'm using it, I am pushing myself. It's like, I'll reach for my camera and I'll say, no, nope, no camera. Nope. You're using the device. Let's get
like
this
a
thing
shock
going.
collar on there, like some volts that come through.
Almost. It's almost what it is. And I have to push myself to use it, because I want to be as complete with that inspection at the end of it as possible. And still learning and editing as I go. But there's a learning curve, but it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
If anybody's used an app before, there's no reason they wouldn't be able to use this.
I love hearing the technical side and kind of how the inspectors used it in transition. Reuben, because you're a master marketer, you're probably the best marketer in this industry. So I always get excited when I meet companies where I'm like, wow, you guys know how to market, you know how to write, you know how to produce content. Did you see this as, hey, our growth team and I can use this stuff as good marketing fodder?
I want to say yes for your benefit, Kevin, but honestly, no.
No, you just said, hey, pure for the team.
It was only for our team. Yes,
perfect.
It was to make the inspectors happier, to have them, give them more life at home. And for the inspectors who are only doing one inspection a day, I wanted them to be able to do two. We lost the first inspector on our team in 2020, or was it 19? No, it was 2019. I believe we lost the first inspector ever because he was not able to do more than one inspection a day. I mean, that's where he capped out.
No
He
kidding.
wasn't comfortable doing two a day. And he lived quite a long distance from the Twin Cities.
Mhm.
And it didn't work out for him. And he eventually had to transition into something else to try to get more money.
Right.
I'm sure he is now, but I didn't want that ever happening again. I want people to be able to do two a day. And
Yeah.
so we're trying to figure out what is it. And the software was a huge part of it. So that was really the big driver. I mean, having a much more beautiful report is just a side benefit.
Yeah.
That's great. It's wonderful, but it's not what drove this.
And happy people, man, like there's no price tag you can put on that. You know, I'm sure you could try to measure it, but happy people, happy
No, you're
company,
taking the
happy
words right out of my mouth, Kevin. Exactly. You are completely right. Yep.
Yeah, I know, and I know the drive. I know the drive was for the inspectors. I mean, on my side too. It's like the reason to do this is that we need to have people do more inspections if they want to, and also because there was so much. The bane of our existence as home inspectors is the report. It is the
Yep.
thing we dislike the most, and to be able to have even, like I said, even 50% of it done is 100% more than I had done when I would leave before. So it was the driver of this was work-life balance, because I don't want people to not have time with their family, or people have to get up really early in the morning to finish the reports from the day before. That's the goal.
Yep.
Yeah. Because that resentment, it's a slow bleed. You may not notice it right away. Like I try to be mindful of this with our team even. And it's like they just add up over the days and weeks, and it manifests in weird ways that we probably can't even notice half the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
I kind of just want to open it up now. Thank you for sharing kind of that progression and how it was handled. This is the part I was more excited about, just seeing what's interesting to you guys and just kind of shooting the shit for however long, of like what challenges you face, what's interesting to you in the industry.
Well, and I want to ask you, Kevin, why do you do a podcast? What's the end goal?
Let me think back. Because we've been doing this well before COVID, obviously. So everyone has a podcast now. I know you have as well, right?
Yeah, I started a podcast like shortly after I did the first podcast with you, I think.
Yeah. I want to be on it, by the way, if we can find a reason for people to be forced to listen.
All right, we'll get you on it. Consider it done.
Yeah. I just remember thinking that home inspectors are in the car all day, every day. And like, there just wasn't a good resource. Cause when Mike and I started Spectora, it was a small SaaS company, and there was this podcast called Startups for the Rest of Us. And they spoke specifically about issues we were going through as a small software company. And it was so informative. And there was so much little nitty gritty details that only that podcast gave us. And so I was just thinking like, man, our industry's kind of behind in a lot of areas on the tech and media side. Like I talk to inspectors all day, every day anyway. Why don't I just record it and see if anyone gives a shit? And at first, actually my first episode was Ben Gromyko. So people naturally cared quite a bit because people know that name. But one, I thought it was fun. So it was part selfish, where I'm like, hey, I enjoy talking to people and hearing stories and hearing their success stories and what worked well and what didn't. Cool. This is easier than writing code or building a website or doing a demo. Mike gets jealous sometimes. He was just like, oh dude, you get all the feel goods and you just get to like have all this fun. And I'm over here, running the, putting out fires. But yeah, I think it was to put content out, kind of knowing that it's like the content marketing mantra, right? That you always say, like, put value out there selflessly and it comes back to you somehow, some way.
Yes.
And I thought this would be freaking fun just to let people tell their stories, because this industry is isolating. Like, I don't think people get how isolating it can be to be a home inspector, especially a solo. And so I think there's just community that's springing up in different places in our industry. I wanted to be a part of that.
Okay. That's awesome.
And by the way, you do a good job, man. I've like I said, I've listened for quite a while now. I have always said about podcasts that I love the format. I love the long format. It's like, oh, this podcast is 47 minutes long. Oh, this one's 35 minutes long. It doesn't matter. And when you get going on something, you can kind of let things flesh out and cover whatever topic you want. And I was talking to Reuben before we set this up. I said, you and Kevin are similar in the question that you ask people or ask others is, have you read ... And it's like, well, Reuben, I'm inspecting a lot and I don't necessarily have time to read. But, and by the way, when I say read, I mean read/listen, because they're the same thing now.
Yep.
Same thing.
Right.
Yep.
So, but I love that you get to sort of dive a little deeper with these folks that we may meet. And I've met some of the guys that you've interviewed. I've met them, but at Inspection World once a year for 15 minutes.
Right.
It's like there's no way to really get to the depth of a person or what they've done or what they've gone through. It's definitely a learning experience. And if there are other inspectors out there, whether you're a single person or multi-inspector, it doesn't matter. You're going to pick up some nuggets in every one of them. And I told Reuben, it is funny to hear, it's sort of like this brush with fame. It's funny to hear Reuben mention sort of third person when you're interviewing someone. I think it happened a couple of weeks ago.
I forgot to tag you guys and Reuben, because there's a couple, while I'm talking to someone, I'll bring up Reuben's name, because I'm always like, oh yeah, like if you're blogging, go to Structure Tech's website, go find ideas there, and I'll make a note to tag you guys, and I always forget. So like,
oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
No, but it's great to hear that. Well, I joke that I'm going to get Reuben a shirt that says, I'm Reuben Saltzman. I'm kind of a big deal. And and then everybody else would have shirts that say, I'm with Reuben. So
yeah, I'd wear that shirt.
I think everybody. I think everybody would.
Well, look at the time. Look at the time.
Reuben. Yeah, Reuben, and you, Reuben. So yeah, I think it's difficult for everybody to take a compliment, but Reuben especially. You're doing it now. You can't even make eye contact with people that you're not looking at.
No, I know.
You're a very humble person, and you've earned your recognition. So
that's why you guys continue to have success, right?
Yeah,
I mean, how is your podcast going?
It's going well. It's we started out doing it in a studio. It was great, and now we're doing exactly what we're doing right now. We're doing everything via Zoom, but we're enjoying it. I mean, it's me, Bill, and Tessa. It's the three of us every week, and we're always getting new guests on, and we're having a lot of fun with it. And I mean, some of these guests, it's like, if there's one we just did on EMFs, like electromagnetic frequencies or whatever, stuff in the air, that I've always just said, kooky people are worried about this kind of thing. And we got somebody on our podcast who specializes in testing for EMFs. And I mean, we kind of thought this is a little bit out there, but it was fascinating. I mean, I learned so much about it. We all learned so much about it. And I just thought I would listen to this. I got to listen to this again. We got to have her on as a guest again, just to learn more about this, because there's something to it. I mean, this is not nothing. So we've had some really good guests on that, I mean, have just really taught us a lot of stuff. I'm enjoying all I'm learning by interviewing people.
Who's the target audience for your podcast? Is it inspectors, or is it agents, home buyers also, or everyone?
It's funny, Kevin. The target is diligent homeowners and real estate agents.
Okay.
But I think the actual listenership is like 75% home inspectors.
Yeah.
That's not our intended audience, but it seems like that's most of who listens.
Hey, it goes where it goes. That's the beauty of it.
That's right.
It kind of happens. Right. And like you said, it's part fun and self-indulgence. And that's the best. That's
and we get to learn more about Reuben too, because it was only in a podcast, and this is a nice segue for you, Kevin. It was in the podcast that he, I guess, admitted, and I had never really heard him say this, that he wasn't really convinced that Spectora was going to do what it's going to do.
That's very
And,
true.
and
Yeah.
he admitted to the podcast world that he was incorrect about that assumption.
Oh yeah. I when you told me you wanted to switch, the reason I was like, yeah, go for it is because I thought to myself, I don't want to do the work, but I don't want to be the one telling you this isn't going to help. Like then you're
Right.
just going to be bitter towards
Right.
me and you're going to think, well, Reuben's unwilling to change. It's like that's one of our core values here at Structure Tech is change. You want to do it, go for it. It's going to be a lot of work. And I've tried a lot of software. I even tried Spectora myself and I didn't see it changing anything.
Mhm.
And that's why I was like, yeah, whatever, go for it. But I don't see it helping anything. I'm not going to say this. I don't want to be the wet rag, but try it. And when it did work out, I was honestly quite surprised. I didn't see it happening. But I'm glad that I had listened to my team and I didn't get in the way of this one.
Hey, I've once heard, what is it, strong opinions weekly held or whatever, that like really intelligent people, they have strong opinions, but then when they see evidence or facts, they're like, oh, okay, well, I changed my mind because the facts changed.
Oh yeah. It's
You know?
Dunning. Have you heard of Dunning Kruger? I think it's Dunning
Uh-huh.
Kruger. It's more or less, oh boy, I'm going to summarize this and really make people angry, but it's the fact that dumb people dig their heels in and smart
Yeah.
people are willing to change their mind. Then that's another, you have to be able to change your mind. And you had spoken earlier about ego, and this can be a pretty ego driven industry, but if you've been
Yeah.
on any sort of forums, there are some very large egos out there.
Oh, it's insane.
But it's an effort, and I know that there's some things like I'm very, especially things you become personally attached to, like the Spectora thing, and there are some things where I need to sort of I could relax on that a little bit more rather than it's like, nope, this is the way it's gonna be because George said so. It's like, no, this is not it's not a thing, and I need to sort of definitely check some of that. But like with suggestions, especially with suggestions, it's I think this is a better way to word it. There's always that instant part of like, what? I think it's worded fine. What's wrong? And then it's like, oh no, their way is better. Actually, that's a much better way of wording it. So it's just sort of backing off and and working as a team, which can be difficult. COVID aside, home inspectors, I mean, we are 15 different islands, and being a team and getting together. I know this is a bunch of tangents, but being a team and getting together to kind of create this Victoria, I think it's made it, I think it's made it easier for people to kind of see that something right in front of them could actually get better, because I don't think they could think it could get better with the other software. I think with Victoria, they think, we can do this. And I think we're still at the tip of the iceberg, because, coming up on winter, there are some other things I want to explore in Spectora.
And you can pass this along to the team, but I think it's worth saying too. I think when we got into the industry, we did our research. We really dug in and saw how others operate, just the perception of the competition and kind of the pace of the industry. And I think we really made our name on coming in and kind of having our own vision for like, hey, no, we're a tech company and we're going to listen to the experts that are in the field that have the boots on the ground. And we're going to marry the best of both worlds by talking to you often, figuring out what needs to be built, and then being agile like most tech companies are, and having a process and systems around that, as opposed to trying to imagine what's going on maybe in the offices and Zooms of our competitors. And we were like, well, no, we know the way to agile development, to trying to make customers happy, changing the user experience, and really just constantly being curious. And I think that is a different mentality than most in the business. So you can let the team know, yeah, we have a team of 18 that every day live and breathe and think of this stuff and have meetings around the smallest features. Like we're sitting there looking at the flag feature and looking at the location tags and thinking where else they could go. Oh, let's ask some of our biggest companies. Oh, let's ask the solo inspector if that was obvious. And so we really nerd out to that stuff. And so that's cool to hear that you guys feel that, because I don't think it's always said just how much we're fixating on all the little things that go into your day where you're tapping a button 300 times.
Oh yeah, it's got to be user friendly. And you can, Kevin, you can edit this out if you want. But if you remember this summer, there are some things that went down with Spectora, right?
I don't remember any of that. I blacked out.
You had an interesting summer, my friend. And we were just about to sort of our kind of go live and like, yeah, let's go. When everything went a little sideways for you guys.
Yeah.
And two things, and then I told Reuben and I told others, it's like, one, and if you're on the Spectora Facebook forum, it's like, oh boy, this is they have some recovery to do, and you guys recovered. And I just in knowing what I know about the software and kind of what I know a little bit about the industry, it's like, this isn't the end of anything. It's like, great. They made some mistakes and we're rolling back and now we're going forward. And you did a good job of communicating that to everybody. So I remember putting us like, I think we're going to wait a couple weeks and see what happens. And what happened was you guys tried something, and I'm just being broad in terms, but you tried something, didn't necessarily work. Let's keep going on this, but let's focus on this. And it's gotten, the incremental improvements are noticeable, and I'm happy. I think that's a distant memory for most. Sorry for bringing it up again, but we'll
like a twitch in my neck.
I know. It's like, it's not what you do, it's how you recover from it. And I think that's the big thing that happened here. It's like, it was a fantastic recovery. We're going to be fine. And if, there were grumblings, definitely. It's like, the smart Alex saying, so who are you going to use to write your report tomorrow? It's like, okay, I don't care. It's not that bad. You guys are still going to be able to work and stuff. So, hats off to you and your team for making a great recovery. And I'm confident that changes coming in the future are not, you're going to try things, and we're going to break things, maybe not to the degree that we're broken this summer, but you're going to break things, and there's going to be a recovery. So I hats off to you guys for all of your efforts on that.
Well, yeah. And you want to see a company who's not doing anything, who's not changing, who's not fixing anything. That's going to be a company who doesn't do anything wrong. They're just going to leave things exactly the way that they are. And that's what pushed us so much to switch home inspection software, because we had a company who wasn't doing anything. You make changes, stuff is going to go wrong. And I've long said that you want to learn about a company, look at where they screwed up and see how they deal with it. You can't really learn anything about a company who just keeps getting 5-star reviews over and over again. I want to see how they respond to those 1-star reviews. That is what tells me the most about a company.
And humans in general, right? Like when they say
everybody,
people under adversity or stress, like get a home inspector in a stressful situation, you see how he responds. And thank you guys for saying that. I don't edit anything out of the podcast. I love talking about those moments, because the things we learned from it and the optimizations we made with our Amazon cloud and our rep there and everything, all the intricacies of our databases and how we transfer all these photos got better from it. And so of course I can look back now and say, man, we learned a shit ton from that, and our team stepped up, and people worked 12-hour days, and people went above and beyond. And I sent them gift cards afterwards and rewarded them. And it just felt great afterwards. But then you're like, well, yeah, in the moment that really sucked. I was sweating bullets. Probably my hairline probably went back even a half inch or whatever. But you're right. I think our community and, the people we've built relationships with, that's where you strengthen that bond, by responding instead of burying your head in the sand. There's certain softwares where it's 1 or 2 guys running it, and it's like, what if they're on vacation or they don't answer you for a week? It's like, you're toast, And so that's where we're trying to be very different and say, like, yes, we are premium, but we're going to be there and we're going to bust our ass and we're going to stick with it. And we're going to do what it takes to make sure we're all successful. So that's just a different take. And I want to talk about pricing too with you guys, because I think you guys have a similar philosophy, but
I was just going to say that is the Structure Tech way. That is we've talked about that more than once in meetings. It's like, yeah, we're not the lowest price, but boy, we're awfully good at what we do.
Oh, I
So,
love it. I've watched that video like a couple times. I've sent, many inspectors to it. I'm like, hey, are you questioning yourself on price? Go watch this video. See if you're on that level. But you got to be at that level. You can't just do
Yes.
that.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, that's what we said about Spectora. I mean, that was a big kind of hesitation my team had coming to me with this. So like, all right, Reuben, I know that we're using home gauge right now, and home gauge user licenses are all paid for. It's like a one-time fee. They no longer do that, by the way.
They did change. They did adapt, and that was interesting. I know they got acquired, and I'm sure the acquirer was like, "Hey, this model isn't working. We got to change it
Yeah.
up." So I don't know if
Yeah,
that's, I
but
don't know what that says.
before that, it was like it's paid for. I was not paying a monthly fee, annual fee, nothing. And all of a sudden, it's like, all right, we're going to switch to Spectora. It's going to be $1,000 per user per year, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. It's probably not that much, but it's a lot. And
Mhm.
you multiply that by the number of users. It's like, all right, we got 20 user licenses, and hold on, wait.
Let me do the
Uh,
math. Oh, yeah.
wait, no, hold on. And we had to think about it for a second. I said, well, let's try it. Let's see how it goes. I
Mhm.
mean, because if this can get us doing more inspections, it will pay for itself and it'll be worth it for the team. So let's try it. I mean, realistically, what is it? It's more like about $700 per user, right?
right. And the way I kind of presented it to Ruben, it's like, yeah, that's a check to write. But if it's $49 a month, if you have one inspector doing one more inspection that they wouldn't normally have done, you've made
That's
the money
5x.
back.
Yeah, 5, 6x
Yeah.
return. Yeah, a month.
You've
Or no, more than that. 'Cause that's
structure
a month.
tech.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And then, even though, this person gets paid, and there's a split, and then structure tech makes more than $49 on that. That I think it pays for itself. It is weird to, I guess, um, you know, the proverbial check writing, which no one does anymore. But you write a check for 9, 10, 15 grand a year, whatever it is. That seems like that's a gulp that you have to they
Mhm.
have to take. But understand that, sort of amortized throughout the year, that is definitely going to pay for itself, especially with the ease at which people can get their reports. I'm still kind of trying to nudge Reuben toward the, we're not, we still use ISN. So
Mhm.
it's like, boy, it'd be great if we could send them a text of their report, but we'll get there. We have we just wanted to get the report, kind of done and stable. But I think I look for big things to happen, not big things, just better things to happen over the winter. While we're sort of hunkered down, we're going to try some other things with Spectora.
Most big multis do it that way in that phase approach because it's the report writing beast, template the beast, and then the back office. You're talking now admins, a different segment of your company that has to work with us to get onto advanced. So I totally get it. I mean, that's the natural progression, and I advise people not to bite off both at once because then guess what? They're writing into support 5 times as much as opposed to, the normal cadence.
Yeah. Yeah. No thanks.
Um, what else are you guys thinking about in the industry? Like, do you think much about ways we can evolve types of inspections? What homeowners and agents are asking for? I always like zooming out sometimes and just seeing like, is there anything on the horizon that we should all be thinking about?
I'm looking inward too much. I mean, my
Mhm.
my big focus has been on training and hiring. That's been our bottleneck here at Structure
Just
Tech.
yeah, continuing to
And
ramp up.
yeah, that's where my focus has been, trying to
Are there?
figure out how to find people and get them trained faster.
Here's a question: Is there still? I know the answer to this. There's a lack of tradespeople. I think we see that anytime you get a quote for any type of job on our houses, right? So is there still a shortage of home inspectors at the end of the day, or is it just quality ones?
I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
don't know. I can only see it through my own lens. I can say that one of the best things we did was adding a page to our website titled Employment, and having a lot of information about who we are and what we offer, and just getting the word out there to people and just saying we're hiring.
Much like Ruben's kind of just thinking inward company wise, it can be a little difficult for inspectors to see beyond the house that we're inspecting.
True.
So, and then I leave all the growth stuff up to Structure Tech. That was, hey, Reuben, you're back.
Hey,
Blue screen of death.
You're kidding me.
First time ever on this computer. I'm gone.
we maxed it out.
So I'm on my mobile phone here.
Oh,
Love the pivot. Love it. Reuben, one thing I wanted to connect home with what you were saying was you've been blogging for so many years, driving traffic to the site. That's consumers, agents, and inspectors. Then you throw up that employment tab or that menu item. That naturally is going to lead good people to you because inspectors are always snooping and seeing whether people are writing about. So for others, it's like this comes full circle of the strategy of drive traffic to the website from all three personas in our business, and good things happen.
Yeah, that's been huge. And we also took one person on our team, Tessa, who does the podcast, and we've transitioned her from home inspector into recruiting and training manager. That's all she does now, is she recruits and trains people. So I think that has really helped our bottleneck. We set a goal for how many people we're going to bring on at a time and how fast we're going to train them. And she seems to be doing a good job of it. I mean, it remains to be seen. We've got 3 people in training right now. We'll see if she can get them trained within 3 months. That's the target. We're on track to get that done though.
Love it.
And I'm already kind of impressed with the new process that, there are. So what we have is actually Neil, Reuben's dad, he's got 3 guys. We got 3 guys that we're training right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed up. I didn't even know they were going to be there. I just see these guys wandering around the outside of the house. Like, is that who's? So, and then I quickly realized, oh, okay. So the process is, so with Reuben, when I was training with Reuben, it was, you meet at the house, we're going to inspect the entire house, and then we're going to go. And then we're going to do it over and repeat. Now they have a couple, I think Melinda's doing this too. Melinda and your dad. They're taking the guys and they're just focusing on a system, like for a week or whatever it is. So last week, whatever, it was just, nope, we're just doing the exterior. All right. Now it's foundation. I love that. I love that because now we're just going to focus on this. And then you're going to get jam full of information and then we're going to move on, but you're still going to be able to come back to, the foundation, the exterior, stuff like that. I think it's a great approach to training. I'm really happy with that.
Love it. Very focused training. How much time do you guys have? I don't want to take it. We've been here about an hour 5. I want to be respectful of your time. You got a couple more minutes? I got another question or two.
Well, I'm good. I don't have an afternoon inspection.
Cool.
Which is great.
I want to know how big Structure Tech can get. What's your vision?
I've
if you have one.
I've been trying to be careful about this because there was a while in the spring and leading up to this, I was saying what we're going to do, what cities we're going to go to. We're going to go to this or that city and we're going to carry on business and make money. And we're going to go to this market and this market. I was pretty bold about all that. And while reading my Bible one morning, I came across James 4:13-17. And it said, now listen, you say today or tomorrow, you'll go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business and make money. What is your life? You're a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. And I'm not going to keep quoting it, but it basically said, this is all just boasting. Knock it off. God is going to control all of this and you don't have a thing to say about it. So what you really ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. And so I've tried to change my tune a little bit and just say, look, I do have goals, but I preface it with, if it is the Lord's will. So I hope that God sees things the same way. I would like to double our market here in the Twin Cities. Right now, we do inspections at about 5% of the pending sales in our market. I think we could easily get to 10%. So, I mean, it's a big market.
Exactly.
So we got a lot of room for growth here. And I mean, just that point, with 15 inspectors right now and a whole bunch in training and a whole bunch that have pulled off the schedule who aren't part of that 15. Even with that, we're only at 5% of our market. So when inspectors look at one other inspector in their area, they're like, they're stealing my business. I challenge you, how much business are they really stealing? How much is really out there? Like, what percentage of that pie do you own? But yeah, we could easily get to 10% here in the Twin Cities. And once we're there, that's when I want to start looking at expanding out to different markets. And really what it comes down to is helping people, because we've got people knocking down our door from all over parts of Minnesota, from different states, different surrounding states, asking, when are you going to be doing home inspections in our area? We love what you guys do. We need you here. And we want to be able to help those people. So Minnesota first, but then expanding outside of Minnesota in the next couple of years probably is our goal, if it is the Lord's will.
I love that answer because I relate to that deeply. Mike and I always talk about, future plans, other adjacent, products, agent dashboard, other ways to grow the business. And then we get recentered almost of like, oh, we're pulling ourselves ahead too far. There's a lot of home inspectors that still need to know about Spectora, that still need to use Spectora. Thousands of them, 10,000. And so, yeah, there can be this distraction of future gains. Like you said, it's just kind of an illusion or, whatever. And you'll get there and the call to it will be strong when you get there and it'll be the right decision and you'll know. And I love that of taking care of the core. And to hear that 5% number, I would have guessed 20%. It's insane. That's crazy.
Yeah. A lot of room for growth.
Do you find those numbers from the MLS or do you pull it from like a Zillow of like monthly closings and just kind of back into it?
Yeah, it's published MLS.
Yeah.
They talk about closed sales, pending sales, this, that. And I think the best number for us to track is pending sales, because as soon as it goes into pending status, that's about the time that people would want to get a home inspection.
Everyone needs to know this number in their state and city and track yourself against it. I don't know how you don't know this number if you're an inspector.
Yes. Because if you're not tracking that, then you're just riding the wave. You don't know if you're outperforming the market or not. And of course, not all of those transactions get home inspections. There's a ton that don't. But what you're looking at is the trend. When the market did this, what did your business do?
Ah, that's huge to say. Yeah, because we're all riding a great bull market and wave in real estate. We can all acknowledge that. And so I think there's some false attribution going on of like, oh, we're a great company. We are great inspectors, when in reality, the pie is just getting bigger. It's like, what are you doing within that? I like that. I love that line of thought.
Yes.
Yeah. What else is on your guys' mind? We'll go like 5 more minutes, we'll say, and just see what else you're thinking about, maybe operationally, procedurally, because like you said, you're looking within and focusing on the core. And I love that. I think more people need to adopt that mindset. I miss IAB conferences personally. I can't wait to have another in-person conference, which won't happen probably for another 6 months.
From an inspector point of view, and this is also probably tying back into that ego thing. I've always been a fan, of consistency, but I've also been a fan of how I do my stuff. So sometimes a team wanting to be consistent and how I do my stuff isn't necessarily the same. So I think it's important for the inspectors at a multi-inspection firm that's starting to get bigger, that as your policies and all of the inspectors on our team, if they listen to this, they're going to be rolling their eyes, because I'm guilty of it too. Like, we decide that we're going to do something some way, and we decide on maybe a new procedure, something to do. Well, the grumpy old guys are just like, why are we doing, what, are you kidding me? And it's like, I need to keep in mind that this is the bigger goal here, is to make the inspection process as consistent and repeatable as possible. So when they call structure tech and they get an inspector, we're all going to be doing basically the same thing. And, I think I do a good job. I really do. But it's not that the newer things, as we grow, things need to be kind of documented and a little more precise, so you can then repeat it, because you can't, it's difficult to train. It's like, oh yeah, that's how George does it. Oh yeah, Neil does it that way. And then Matt does it this way. We really kind of need to be on board. And I'm saying this on a podcast to try to make a commitment to myself and Reuben and Structure Tech to do a better job of like, not being the old guy that's been doing it for a while. I'll show these young kids how to. It's like, no, that's not my attitude at all. But I do think that as multi-inspector firms become bigger, I think it's making sure that everybody else has buy-in, and it's like there's a reason for this, and it's not that we're trying to be punitive or being a jerk about a testing method. It's just that we need to create consistency. If this isn't the way to do it, then someone needs to come up with a way to do it that we can all agree on, not to put everything to a vote. But if there's enough pushback, it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to rethink this. But having the team involved to a certain extent, and to get buy-in, I think that's the biggest thing, is to get buy-in. I think that helps propel a company further. I always want to be a commercial for Structure Tech. I've never lost that. And I always want to be able to say nothing but good things about Structure Tech. We all have our moments. I'm not being unrealistic, but just speaking as, the team wants to participate in the growth, and we want to do that for the company.
I love it. I think every member of the team has to know how it benefits them personally, because I think at the end of the day, people can buy into a vision, but we all, want to know how it benefits us. And I think consistency builds a brand, and a brand that can grow and thrive benefits everybody. Upward mobility, higher salaries. Everyone wins, I think, with a strong, consistent brand experience. And so I think we don't talk about that a ton in this industry, because there's not many brands. There's only a handful of brands that I name when I talk to people about brands in our industry. It's the Structure Tech, it's the Super Inspectors, it's the RIA, it's the Elites. There's not many you can rattle off where you say that's a known brand. So that's cool to hear. I really like hearing that from your perspective in terms of the buy-in, because I think you got to know how it benefits everyone at the end of the day. Whew, guys, right. What else we got? We could wrap it here. I'm definitely going to have you guys back again for a second and third time. Because when it's fun, I just get the feeling that when we're having fun doing this, everyone that's listening is going to have fun listening, and then they're going to want more of it. So,
or they might want less of it. They might say, sure, just they have Reuben on next time.
They can choose.
George was too loud at times.
No, I love the dual perspective. I don't think we've ever had this before, in terms of a lead, longtime partner, as well as the owner. Well, guys, this is amazing. High point of my day and week. Thanks for taking the time. We just kind of went with it and saw where we went, and I love it.
Well, thank you. This was great. On, Kevin. I can't wait to have you on our podcast.
Yeah, we'll just maybe talk at each other back and forth, take turns, and then see if anyone cares. It'll be great.
That sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
Guys, have a great rest of your day. This was fun.
You too. Take care.